Today's video is sponsored by YouGov. Move that body, work up a sweat. I've got a workout that you'll probably regret. I regret most things I do, actually. It's me, Bussiana Grande, and welcome back to Hot or Hot. And today we'll be reviewing episode 13 of RuPaul's Drag Race season 15. Our final 5 were challenged to give drag family makeovers to the unsung heroes of the modern world, teachers, and prepare them for an unforgettable runway presentation and lip sync to RuPaul's Champion, still available on iTunes. So we'll be rating each queen's performance in the episode out of 10 hot flames today, 5 for what I thought of the drag family resemblance, and 5 for what I thought of the runway looks and presentation overall. We'll also be revisiting the Salina versus Ross Matthews drama, as it has apparently come to a happy ending, as well as taking a look at what Mistress Isabelle Brooks has to say to fans of the show who say that she's been bullying Lucy LaDuca, which she continues to address on Twitter and at places like the Roscoe's viewing party for this episode. And I've got a lot to serve you today, so grab your rackets. But first, new year, new side hustle. You know all that data floating around the internet? Well, guess what? It comes from real people like you who can get paid for sharing your opinions online. With today's video sponsor, YouGov. Just click the link in the description of my video to get started earning points for completing short surveys. Like this one asking me what kind of consoles I play video games on. My PS5, of course. Overwatch 2 kinda has me hooked right now. Earning extra cash with YouGov is easy. Complete short surveys, earn points, and get paid for sharing your opinions. And you can do them anywhere, like on your couch while you're watching Netflix, or in your bed before you fall asleep at night. And when you're ready, you can redeem your points for cash or gift cards to your favorite retailers like Amazon. Just think of the possibilities. That's money towards a character skin on Overwatch 2, or maybe just some weekly coffee cash. Click the link in the description of my video to start earning extra cash right now. Thanks YouGov for sponsoring today's video. Now, what's the score? Love all. First up, Salina and Ross. So in last week's Hot or Raw, we saw that Salina EsTities had some choice words for Ross Matthews at a public show she hosted.
Ross Matthews, you can eat my What does he know about that shit? I should have been wearing a black bodysuit. Look what you're wearing, you sequin sweater jacket. Why is he still on the judges panel? He's not even hilarious.
And then a few days after that clip went viral, Salina tweeted this out. Hey Lil Nips, Ross and I had a really great conversation and we hashed it out as adults. Everything's okay and I have apologized for my actions. I was deep in my feels after reliving the critiques and knowing I was about to be eliminated. I can admit when I've misstepped, and now I see the power of my platform and voice. We have nothing but love and respect for each other, onwards and EsTities. To which Ross Matthews replied, love you always. Cause girl, if there's not a happy ending, I'm not interested. No nail era. Sorry. But seriously, it is nice to see they came to a resolution on the situation. And Salina also elaborated a bit more on this at the Roscoe's viewing party from this week's episode, saying this.
I'm not gonna apologize for the way that I felt, because my feelings are valid, point blank period. But the way that I chose to express my feelings, not the cutest thing. And at What You Packin', I confronted Michelle. I don't know if y'all saw it on YouTube, but I was like, girl, what's the tea? We got to talk it out, and I kind of felt like, okay, work. I had grace with Michelle, but I never got to have that with Ross. I kind of got to have that conversation with Ross and clear the air and find some, like, you know, apologize for what I said on the, you know, what this really taught me was how powerful my platform and my voice was.
And overall, I think it's really nice that these two were able to come to an understanding, and Salina seems to be finding some peace with ultimately what was a top 6 placement on season 15 that she should be really proud of. But on to our final 5 in the makeover challenge tonight. First up, Sasha Colby. And Sasha hits the runway tonight with the newest addition to the Colby dynasty, Ferocity Colby. And what immediately stood out to me about Ferocity and Sasha was their identical jaw-dropping beauty. Like, Ferocity has one of those beautiful faces that was just really ready to take makeup and emphasize those great features. And when you pair that bone structure with that snatched Sasha Colby makeup, you get a beauty queen. Of course, the other thing that stood out to me about these two looks on the runway was the size of the padding, specifically on Sasha, because oh my god, girl, she said proportionizing? Yes, I will. And this stood out to me in particular because Sasha, as we've seen her on the RuPaul's Drag Race runway, doesn't really pad very much. Like, good god, with an ass like that, she doesn't need to. But here, in the makeover challenge, she is, and the reason given during the episode is Ferocity tells Sasha that she wants the full high glam, full drag fantasy, which includes padding. I think Sasha going the extra mile with Ferocity and all of this padding was a great way for her to tell the judges that she wasn't going to cop out here. She was fully committed to giving Ferocity that unique first time in drag experience where you've got these giant couch cushions on your butt and you feel that fantasy when you look in the mirror. And while I think some of the proportions of the pads between Sasha and Ferocity maybe could have been adjusted to match a little bit better, I do think they were 100% giving drag family with their hair, the flower fascinators, and these really pretty pink palm kind of tropical dresses. These two are giving me hot twin sisters at the White Lotus hit the cabana for a couple drinks and a couple boys. Sasha very obviously here achieved a very hot transformation, and through their presentation I think it was very clear Ferocity was feeling the fantasy and having fun on the runway. Plus, like, totally heartwarming when she was telling Sasha that she wanted to like keep in touch after the show. Sasha must be a mother to so many people. Love that for her. And next up we've got Lucy LaDuca hitting the runway with LaLa LaDuca. But girl, you could have told me that that was Lucy herself on the first shot where LaLa turns around. Oh my god, like uncanny. And for that to come across that well on camera, I can't even imagine how spooky LaDuca that was in person. Which I think is even crazier to acknowledge, I think, when you take a look at Lucy's makeup, because it's relatively simple when compared with queens like, let's say, Anetra and Mistress on this cast. Like, to achieve that exact stamp with so relatively little makeup, I think is a special skill on its own. Plus, she and LaLa are in some signature big blonde Lucy LaDuca hair. I love in particular the pattern that Lucy has used here on these two outfits, with her dress matching the coat of LaLa's. Like, seriously, this is actually, I think, one of my favorite Lucy dresses that she has worn on the runway. And Lucy has very obviously instilled her confidence into LaLa. She is smiling the whole time. And LaLa in particular, among this set of teachers, I thought really understood the assignment of what she was supposed to be doing, especially, girl, in the lip sync. She kind of gathered the other teachers up. She ate, she snacked, she took a bite, she chewed, she swallowed, she spit it back up. She ate it again. That's all. It was clear though, the judges were grabbing at straws to find critiques for what Lucy and LaLa were doing. They end up showing Ross criticizing the shoe that LaLa is wearing. And like, sure, the shoe could have used a stone or two to like match Lucy's heels. I can agree with that. But the tea is, if you look at shoes across the 5 queens tonight, most of the teachers were not wearing super exciting or necessarily matching shoes, either to their own outfit or to the queens that they were paired with. So in the grand scheme of things, this critique was just kind of like, what? Lucy and LaLa get hots across the board from me. And next up, our shady, hairy thief of our final 5, at least according to her fellow castmates, Mistress Isabelle Brooks. And if you didn't watch the episode, I'm not being shady. These are the like monikers they voted on in the mini challenge. And these were really funny, especially if you've been following Mistress Isabelle Brooks's Twitter, because a couple of days ago, she tweeted this out. When we were filming Wig Loose, there's a part in the musical where we used the book Guru by RuPaul as one of the props. When I was on set, I was a kleptomaniac and would take everything that wasn't bolted down. So I stole the book we were using because I thought it was just a prop, but it turned out to be one of the producer's personal books and they were going crazy looking for it. That was so scary. I gave them the book back though because I didn't want them to search all my stuff and find the jewelry, wigs, and piece of workroom wall that I stole. Then we were on the main stage and I apologized to Ru and admitted that I stole the book, and she said, well, cue the snipers. Mistress said, I'm taking home some prizes with or without a crown. But like a piece of the wall, that gagged me a little bit for sure. And she did also bring the wall stealing back up in the Roscoe's viewing party she did. And apparently Anetra was involved.
I remember like trying to steal like a lot of stuff from set. Me and Anetra cut a big ass piece of the workroom wall out. Like literally like, bitch. And we did it like on the first day too.
So I guess we shouldn't be surprised if next season the pink brick wall is like actual brick to prevent the queens from stealing it. Anyways, in the challenge, Mistress hits the runway with Madame Thang. And concerning family resemblance, for Mistress, I think we are of course looking for over-the-top drag and drama, opulence, pageantry, beauty, which includes for Mistress a clear silhouette, big hair, a lot of makeup, and a good walk on the runway. And I think Mistress really nailed it on this one. Madame was so into the fantasy fantasy, like you could tell she was feeling her full evil Ursula Queen thing. And while these looks were, I think, a little more simple for some of the extravagance that Mistress has presented on the runway throughout this season, I think they were effective in communicating her style of drag. The only thing that stood out to me was I think the eyebrows on Madam didn't totally read Mistress's eyebrows, and she was talking in the critiques of the judges about how she actually had offered to pay Madam Thang to shave her eyebrows so that she could better paint them on, but she evidently wouldn't accept the bribe. And this, I guess, led to her dealing with the canvas that she was giving and coming up with these more higher arched, crazier looking brows. But yeah, that's me like splitting eyebrow hairs, because these two clearly had a great connection. I think it was really fun to hear about Madam Thang coming out later in life and embracing her queerness and Latina heritage together as a teacher. Plus, something I think not a lot of the other queens were able to totally instill in their partners was the personality trait of being a little bit shady. I gagged when Madam Thang told RuPaul that he would have to wait and see what kind of queen that she was on the runway when he asked what kind of queen she was. So Mistress and Madam get hots from me across the board. I loved what she did here. And their connection, by the way, has apparently persisted beyond the show. Mistress right now has the Amazon wish list of Madam Thang in her Instagram bio, and she's been asking everybody to buy stuff from that because teachers in the US, unfortunately, do often end up buying tons of stuff for their classrooms. Again, unsung modern heroes. So make sure you want to check out that link if you want to help a teacher in need. The one thing I did find really interesting though about Mistress's edit this episode was she had a particularly long runway. Like, she got 61 seconds of runway time, which was 10 seconds more than Anetra's runway and like 16 more than Luxx's, and then almost 20 full seconds more than Sasha and Loosey's runways, which were 42 and 41 seconds. And considering the narrative they were building with Mistress and the relationship that she built with this teacher and this long runway, I thought that they were gonna give her the win. So it was surprising to me when they didn't, but I'm not really sure why she got so much extra runway time. If y'all have any thoughts on that, let me know. And now for the quote unquote bullying drama concerning Mistress. So on March 19th, she tweeted out a screenshot of what appears to be her Instagram comments, where there are tons of people calling her a bully. With this image, she wrote, "Everybody say love." And the day before, she had tweeted this out. "When I went to Drag Race, I made a promise to myself that I would stay true to who I am, I would represent the Brooks Dynasty in Houston, Texas, and keep traditional drag alive. I've accomplished everything I set out to do, and I'm proud of myself. It's taken a lot of work to get where I can say that and truly feel what it means. No matter how many times you, quote, fans try to stop me and put me down, it won't work. Stay mad. You're gonna be even more upset when that crown is on my head." And all of this followed the back and forth that Mistress and Luxx had with Loosey in the prior episode concerning the characters that they were going to get for the Rusical. But this has been going on all season. I mean, people have even been so crazy as to continuously report in mass Mistress's Instagram getting her banned on several different occasions. And while none of this surprises me considering how the Drag Race, quote, fan base has treated the queens in the past, it still disgusts me. Like, I don't understand how somebody can watch a reality TV show and then think it's okay to go write something negative in somebody's comment section. And I think maybe it's because some people don't understand that they're developing these parasocial relationships with people on their TV screens. But the reality is, we as viewers don't know these people. Like, we as viewers are watching a highly edited TV show and seeing a tiny fraction of these people's personalities under extremely stressful conditions. And like, God forbid our drag queens throw a little shade to each other on RuPaul's Drag Race. As Tatiana said, what you see isn't always the truth. And like, I'm sure there have been some very real fights on RuPaul's Drag Race amongst cast members, but throwing a little playful shade is not being a bully. And in fact, most of these queens are friends. This is what Mistress had to say about her relationship with Loosey at the Roscoe's viewing party.
If you actually watch the show, you'll see me and Loosey go back and forth and we're joking. Yeah. And actually, Loosey made the dress that my girl ends up wearing for the makeover, and I styled hair for Loosey in the season, and I styled hair for Luxx. So we're friends, and it's all like a cut up. So.
And next up, we've got Luxx Noir London and Jennifer Coolidge. I was so gooped and gagged when her teacher turned the corner and had that Jennifer face. And also, I love Jennifer Coolidge being so relevant in the zeitgeist again. Definitely check out White Lotus if you haven't. But on a real note, Luxx's teacher's drag name is Asia Azul. And Asia Azul is, of course, here in a blue dress, which seems to be of the same type of material that Luxx's outfit is constructed of. And Asia on her own in drag, I think looks really pretty. The transformation is great. Her hair, beautiful. Makeup, pretty good, and the dress fits. She's padded. She has a silhouette. Like, Luxx did a good job of getting her into drag. I think Luxx's misstep here was really just failing to put the Luxx Noir London stamp onto Asia. Like, there is basically no family resemblance here. And as a relatively newer queen, it might be hard for Luxx to truly know what the judges and viewers might perceive as signature Luxx things, because I think she herself, while such a powerful force in drag already, is in a lot of ways still forming her perspective and outlook on who Luxx is. Regardless though, I think little things really could have gone a long way, like matching hairstyles, or incorporating that chrome belt that Luxx is wearing in some kind of chrome accessory piece on Asia, or going even further with her transformation and putting Asia in something that is more Luxx, something more high concept and fashion forward thinking. Like, I don't think from what we've seen of Luxx's fashion on RuPaul's Drag Race so far, she would ever even wear a dress like that. So I don't know why she thought that would relate to her family resemblance in drag. So because she didn't meet the brief, I'm gonna give this a Apparently though, there was a lot more to the story that Luxx has yet to tell us about. She tweeted this the night of the episode. There's a lot that I'd want to explain about the entire makeover experience, but there's no need, lol. People are gonna say what they need to feel like they, quote, let me have it, regardless of whatever I say, so I'll save it. Anyway, see y'all next week because I'm still here. Throughout the episode and then in Untucked though, we do see that Luxx is maybe a bit upset that Loosey has, as Luxx says, sabotaged her with choice of teacher. Luxx seems to think there was some intentional strategy going on with Loosey giving her a white teacher instead of a black teacher. And Loosey, who assigned the teachers to all of the queens tonight because she won the mini challenge, was confronted about this in Untucked. And indeed, we do learn that Loosey may have been using a little bit of strategy in assigning the teachers to the queens because she was a little upset that Luxx in the previous episode had told the entire judging panel that her drag was generic. And Loosey, feeling like that criticism meant that she wasn't creative, and then Mistress stirs the pot a little bit, creates some good TV drama, and she's like, Luxx, do you think Loosey's look tonight is creative? And she kind of dodges the question first, but then ultimately says no. And as I mentioned earlier, there have been some differences on the show between Loosey and Mistress and Luxx, and all of this culminates at the end of this episode with a lip sync between Luxx and Loosey, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. And finally, she has walked every duck in the forest. It's Anetra. So she transforms her teacher into Electra. And when they turn the corner, I was honestly just kind of in shock. Like, her teacher was dragged up and down. Girl, beat. Anetra pressed copy and then paste with her makeup. That was incredible what she did there. And yeah, I mean, her teacher was really pretty and her face took the makeup well, but the makeup artistry was there. And it was 100% Anetra down to the eyebrow scar. And you can actually watch how amazed I was with this runway presentation over on my Patreon. That's my members only website where I post exclusive reaction videos to episodes of Drag Race and give my patron family exclusive benefits like early access to my YouTube videos and access to the Bussy Queen Discord server. And you can support the Bussy Queen channel and join today by clicking the link in the description of this video. See you there. And concerning what they were wearing, I think they maybe had some of the most interesting outfits on the runway tonight. Anetra went out of her way with Electra to tell the story of yin and yang and, as she says, honor Asian culture. Both Anetra and Electra, by the way, have Filipino heritage. And the outfits they're wearing not only tell a very interesting story, but are, again, very Anetra. Like, this is clearly from the house of Itra. She could walk a duck or two in this outfit. But what gagged me the most actually was Electra's hair. Like, zoom in on that. It is perfect. That unit is beautiful. And I think it's interesting Anetra clearly saved one of her best units for this challenge, or maybe at the last minute styled that wig and then didn't have time to make hers match. I don't know. Regardless though, I think it was really special that she let Electra have the better hair, which just shows how much she really enjoyed this challenge and wanted her teacher to feel the full, beautiful transformation fantasy of drag. This transformation was great, and Anetra absolutely gets points from me. Now for tops and bottoms. So looking at my scores for the queens in this episode, it's clear to see that I thought Mistress, Loosey, and Anetra were very close. I think a win could have been justified for either of them had the narrative been correct. Luxx was really the only queen in this cast who had a little bit of a misstep here, which is pretty big, I think, to say for a makeover challenge. I feel like typically there can be a couple of missteps in the makeover category. Like, it's hard to paint drag makeup on your own face, much less somebody else's, and there were honestly no boogers in this set of teacher transformations. So I do think the judges were being genuine when they were saying they were splitting hairs at this point. But as a viewer, I can't deny, it's felt like the writing has been on the wall for Loosey for quite a while. The judges haven't given her a win or really put her in the top when I think there have been several instances in which that could have been done. And we're seeing this edit of her character where they are just really leaning into the quote unquote delusional side of Loosey LaDuca. But like, let's not forget, she has been doing really well throughout the competition. And like, I mean, she even won Snatch Game. So to see her in the bottom two with Luxx was both surprising and not at all surprising. This was just another case in this season where the narrative and storytelling was leading to Loosey's elimination, but from a competitive perspective, it still didn't feel right. So Luxx and Loosey are catapulted into a lip sync from their fight in the previous episode, which continued in Untucked, the producer's dream, and we get a lip sync that is, it was interesting. Firstly, I'll point out there was definitely some missing lyric knowledge on the part of both of these queens, and a very obvious fight for center stage that was mostly won by Luxx. And in the lip sync, Luxx was at like a 12. She bust out every dance move she could think of and then some, which like at times was entertaining and fun, and then other times was just like a lot. And it felt like even more, I think, compared with how low energy Loosey was. She was at like a 4 or 5. I don't know there if that was her feeling defeated or just trying to give a different performance than Luxx, but both of these queens, I think, have had better lip syncs this season. But considering the performances they gave in this one, I would also have made the choice to keep Luxx and send Loosey home. And of the eliminations this season, this one hit particularly hard. It was very emotional. Loosey was, I think, angry with how everything turned out and clearly unhappy with how she was perceived by both the judges and her fellow contestants. And Loosey is such a talented queen. She proved that this season. But it seems like she just couldn't catch a break in the second half. Her peers were calling her fake and generic, and the edit, from a viewer's perspective, essentially calling her delusional. And reflecting on all this, she kind of reminds me of Jan in the sense that both of these queens, I think, weren't in love with how they placed or were portrayed on the show. And both of these queens have like an intense desire for perfection. And that desire for perfection can, I think, lead to not taking risks or showing cracks in your facade. And risks and cracks, say crack again, are things that RuPaul's Drag Race actually, I think, actively looks for in finalists. Because as great as perfection is, it is kind of hard to relate to sometimes. I think the craziest thing about all of this, though, is had she just let loose herself, then this could have been a very different story for her. So in Loosey's honor, let's all let loose together. And finally, for my hottest hot on the runway tonight, I'm gonna give it to Anetra and Elektra. And I also asked my patrons who they give their hottest hot to tonight, and they too chose Anetra and Elektra. And finally, I wanna say thanks to you for tuning in and give an extra special shout out to Catastrophic Blue, who's just joined my Patreon at the hot tier, and Ashley Brungart, Daniel Sendes, Felicia, Frankie, Jeffrey, Kaylin 730, Laura, Lisette, Louis Labrador, Ruff, Matthew Burns, Matto, Panda Kitty, Sailor, Sexy Winnie the Pooh, Steven Tover, Tyler Hendricks, MD, Wheelie, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Fussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.